Good Thursday morning, everyone. Doug Farrar, NFL editor of the Touchdown Wire site on the USA Today Sports Media Group Network, along with Mark Schofield, our five-tool guy, as always. And Mark, you're wearing like all the brands.
Yeah, I am wearing all the brands. I got the Puma pullover. I got the Adidas hat. I mean, I guess you could say I'm looking for a sponsorship deal or something because, we haven't got one of those yet.
You're a mustache away from Ted Lasso greatness.
Look up there. The little Easter egg.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I've had that up there this entire season, and I haven't had a chance to point it out yet. But there you go. You have the Believe poster.
Outstanding. Well, if we see a mustache on next week's pod, then we'll know why.
I guess this is technically the Halloween episode, but I'm not really dressed up as Ted Lasso. Although I am dressing up this year. It is a surprise, so I can't really give it away.
Okay. Well,
yeah, we can talk about that next week.
We should all be Ted Lasso.
Yeah, we should.
Maybe we can just dress up for next week's podcast.
We could just dress up for next week's podcast. Although a certain senator from Utah dressed up as Ted Lasso, but
we're not going
to in the video he quoted from Friday Night Lights, so that's interesting.
Spencer Hall, who we love, Bum Chillips, said there are like 4 unforced errors in a 5-second video. It's pretty.
Yeah, you have to try to do that.
Yeah, if you follow Mitt's career, that many unforced errors in a short space of time. Well, let's not go there. I'm trying to be better. I'm trying to be good.
Yeah.
I'm trying to be
days like this. It's hard.
Trying to be well behaved, but yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You've known me long enough and well enough.
This is true.
This is true. Okay, so turn the email off so I don't get that stupid noise 500 times. All right. So Packers at Cardinals, Thursday night game. Teams with the 2 best records in the NFC. And you wrote a piece this week. I wrote a thing week 4 about Arizona's defense. You wrote a great piece this week about how, it's time to take the Cardinals seriously overall. Give me just from what you observed this week, give me a thumbnail sketch on the offense. What's different, how it's not as static, because that I think we've both noticed. And let's talk about this defense, because oh boy, that's the thing we're not talking about enough.
Yeah, that's the thing we're not talking about. And that's kind of what the underlying theme of the piece I wrote was that, yeah, we figured the offense was going to be dynamic with Kyler, with, Andre Hopkins, with AJ Green. They figured out a run game. While it's primarily RPO type stuff, they're better on RPO runs, SIS data. I think they're above 5 yards per attempt on run plays that are RPOs, and it's just 3.7 on standard run designs. But they're running the ball effectively, and they're doing it even in situations when the opposition knows it's coming. There was the long drive against the Rams that ended in a field goal. They had another one against the Browns, late game, fourth quarter situations when they have a lead and they know you want to work clock, and they're still able to run it down your throat. That's kind of impressive for a team that, when you take a step back and ask somebody to close their eyes, close your eyes, tell me what you think about the Arizona offense. They think 10 personnel, they think air raid. They don't think 11 personnel, 12 personnel, run it down your throat in those kinds of situations. So they're able to do that. Vance Joseph talked about it after the Cleveland game. Like if you could do that as a football team, you're going to be successful. So they've been different on offense than they have in years past. And when Cliff first came in, they were a primarily 10 personnel team. Like 31% of their snaps 2019 were 10 personnel, 4 wide receivers. That's come down to like 24% this year. So they're still doing a lot of it because they have built the roster that way, but they don't rely on it as much in years past.
Well, as I mentioned, I've mentioned this before. In his first season, it was like 10-10-10 the first half of the season. Then he got really multiple, and then he stopped the next year. And now it's back. They've run 42% 11 personnel, which is 29th in the league. Because the Rams,
right?
26% 10 personnel, which is fourth in positive play rate, and they've run 12 personnel 22% of the time, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah,
and now they have Zach Ertz, so there you go.
Yeah, but I mean, I do think the bigger story is on defense, because yes, they still blitz 31% blitz rate, which is 7th most in the league. They get a ton of pressures on the opposing quarterback. And through this point of the season, though, they could still get pressure with 4. They don't need to blitz. A lot of times they'll, one of the trends this year and in years past is show 6, mug the A gaps, but then drop, see if you can get pressure with 4. They can get pressure with 4. Obviously the JJ Watt injury, we'll see how that impacts this because, you lose him on the inside. You're also getting Chandler Jones back off the COVID list. So he's been good. They've Golden off the edge has been good for them as well. They're
every year that guy's underrated.
Yeah.
And so is so good.
They can get pressure with 4. They can get sacks with 4, but they've gotten productive pressure. My favorite play, and I had this in the piece, was a play against the Rams where they get pressure with 4 on a mesh concept, and they bust the coverage in the secondary because it's mesh. 2 guys run with a crosser working right to left. Cooper Kupp on the crosser working left to right is wide open. He's wide open for a huge gain. Stafford can't see him. He can't find him because they've gotten pressure with 4. He has to move and climb, and he eventually throws into the double covered crosser and it goes incomplete. So they've gotten productive pressure with 4. That gets you to the, holy grail stock answer. Well, how are they going to beat this team? Well, get pressure with 4, drop 7, play too high. They can do it. And so that's the thing that's been critical for them. The offense, it's evolved a little bit. We knew it was going to be good. Kyler has taken a huge step forward, but it's really this defense and what they can do up front, which has created opportunities for them to play with numbers in the secondary.
Well, when you look at Arizona's defense, the pressure with 4, pressure with 3, whatever. That's great. But what do I keep saying every week? The great defenses in the NFL right now, you have to tie pressure to coverage. The Cardinals are doing that. And how are they doing it? They have Isaiah Simmons. They have Xavier Collins. They have these athletic linebackers who can drop back. You can put Simmons outside. We've seen this, outside corner on tight end, and he'll negate the play. So it's not just it. People talk about blitz, no blitz, and I think we have to see past that to, are you messing with a team's protection rules or are you not?
Yeah.
Because you can,
and that gets you
can bring 14 players, but if your blitzes are obvious and the other team can somehow pick up your 14 guys, it doesn't matter. There's going to be, bang, bang. What the Cardinals do, what the Ravens do, what the Buccaneers do, what the Panthers do sort of off and on is they bring front looks that mess with your protections. And even if it's only 3 guys coming, the protections are, you got 2 guys, your center and your right tackler going, I thought there was going to be a guy here. Well, just by your look, your pre-snap look, you've negated those 2 guys. It doesn't matter that there's a defensive lineman or an outside linebacker or a safety blitzer on them. They're out of the play because of the front, the pressure you showed and your quarterback's relative inability to pick it up. And this is where Aaron Rodgers, who is, I think, down his top 3 receivers now, comes in. Because what did we say about Rodgers against the Panthers last year? Kind of the Phil Snow precursor, where Rodgers said it was 3-3-5, a lot of stuff up, big hat defense. It looked strange. You go back to the Saints in week 1. They threw all kinds of pressure at him. They ran too high. Well, the Cardinals can do that. Cardinals aren't a heavy too high team, but here's what they've done when they've been in it. They've allowed 48 completions and 71 attempts for 457 yards, 1 touchdown, 4 interceptions, and an opponent QBR of 66.5. Only the Bills and the Steelers have a lower QBR allowed when in too high. I don't ever want to say that's a recipe for disaster for a quarterback of Aaron Rodgers' caliber, but when we're talking about problems, and now, there's been a deep ball issue all season with that team. This doesn't look really great for the Packers.
No, it doesn't. And, I think the larger point about messing with protection schemes, that's why you're seeing a lot of teams now, they're bringing that running back when you get that double mug look, right? And we know what teams are trying to achieve with that. Ollie Conley wrote about it today, those raid packages where the center's going to turn one way. And if he turns towards you, you drop, and hopefully you get a free rush because the other guy's coming. That's why teams are walking that back up into that sort of sniffer alignment where if you get that and you get that free rusher, the back is right there to pick that up. But then when you've done that, when you've walked the tight end in, the Patriots did this past week, and they went against the Jets. They got one of those looks. So they move the back in, they bring the tight end in, they drop 4, but you've got 7 now in the protection scheme. and you've only got 3 downfield. Like you've switched the numbers as a defense. And so, Arizona's had success doing that. A lot of teams have had success doing that this year. That's what they're aiming for, is to try to get those free rushers, or if you drop, you've still got the numbers advantage in the secondary. This game specifically, with Rodgers and that Packers offense being down so many talented players, it's going to be tough for them. This is a defense that can get after you a couple of different ways, can create confusion, and has had success when they play too high. And we've seen the Packers at times struggle with that.
Well, that goes back to last year where Devontae Adams caught 14 touchdown passes on a single high and 1.
Yeah.
2 out of, because then it's 2 on Devontae and 1 on everyone else, and now you're down that many receivers, and the connections have not been there. I wonder, especially with Watt out, unfortunately, it looks like for the rest of the season, which is because he was playing so well.
Right.
Does this become kind of the response game after the Saints in week 1 was, oh, they're going to run too high? Well, unlike the Chiefs, we have a run game. We have Aaron Jones. We have AJ Dillon. Does it become that game?
I mean, that might be the approach,
because that also keeps, and keeping the opposing quarterback off the field with the run game. Not as obvious, but I mean, if I'm at LaFleur, that might be my only play.
Yeah, I think so.
Panthers at Flackens, Sam Darnold in the vapor lock. He got benched. It was he rolled left and had no clue what he was doing and threw it out of bounds. It was like that Jared Goff 4th and 4 throwaway the week before, where some quarterbacks, it's like, Dan Orlovsky had a really good, I don't know if you saw this, he had a really great video where he detailed the timing of Darnold's drops against the Giants, where he's dropping back so fast and the routes are taking so long to develop. There's no way the quarterback and the receivers can be on the same page. And I remember Bill Walsh saying years ago, I can tell you everything about a quarterback you need to know by his feet. And of course, in Walsh's offense, everything was timed to the drop and the precision of the route. And Sid Gilman did that and other people have done that. It was a big part of Coryell's offense. If you're Matt Rhule and you're Joe Brady and Sam Darnold's going to be you're not going to go through the season with PJ Walker. No offense to PJ Walker, but Darnold's your guy. You made this deal. You've got to fix it. Is it that he's dropping back too fast because he's jittery? Is there some sort of miscommunication? I mean, how does that happen? Where
it's
so
similar.
Frequently, it's just this kind of, it's almost a mistiming in his head.
It's very similar to the Zach Wilson situation we talked about a couple of weeks ago, where he's been pressured, he's been hit, and he's speeding things up because he feels like he has to get the ball out quicker. But the problem is, if you take what's supposed to be, your deep 5, your deep 3 or your deep 5 draw, whether it's under center or gun or whatever, and you turn it into a speed 3, when you're hitting, and Dan pointed out in the video, when he gets to his final step in his drop, takes 2 hitches, the routes still aren't ready. You're running a vertical concept where the breaks are happening 10, 12 yards downfield, anticipated a deep 5 drop, and you've run a speed 3 and you hitch twice, you're still ahead of the play. And at that point, you feel like the time has run out, clock's over, alarm's going off, and you've got to try to create, and there's no opportunity to do so. So it's you see it a lot with younger quarterbacks or quarterbacks that have been under pressure a ton, where they start speeding themselves up in their mind, and they're really just making things worse. He'd be much better suited at taking the standard 5 drop that the design called for. And so when he takes his hitch, there's an opportunity to throw the football, but he's not doing that right now.
You then condense the routes and you run into the possibility of just having this sort of,
paper
cuts offense, but
you start looking at like Matt Nagy, slant flat, curl flat, all the 3-step quick game stuff, because you've sped things up. But that's what you end up happening. And death by 1,000 paper cuts offenses, that could work for a Tom Brady offense with elite weapons around it. But for this team right now, lacking Christian McCaffrey, I know that some of their players are talented, sure, but the quarterback, if you're a defense, you're like, sure, we'll give Sam Darnold the opportunity to execute a 10-play drive against us, because odds are he's going to screw up one of those 10 plays right now.
Mm-hmm. Carolina's defense came out of the gate. Wow.
Yeah.
They've fallen off of late, and here comes Kyle Pitts, who is a certified alien.
Yeah. And, we had a, this is the moment situation in that game against Miami, because early in the game, ISO vertical route against the strong safety, Eric Rowe. He beats him, one-handed catch. Now you're thinking, okay, we got to do things differently. So late in the game, 1-score game, 2-minute warning. They go ISO again. Brian Flores says, look, we're not doing this. They take Xavier Howard and put him out there, and he still beats him. And the safety, Ryan did a pretty good job with his eyes for a huge play to get them in position to win that game. That's one of those moments. Matt Waldman and I talked about it this week, where the rest of the league is going to say, all right, we got to treat this guy differently. We've got to put a corner on him. We got to put our best man coverage corner on a tight end. What did everybody who loved Kyle Pitts say was going to happen eventually? Teams are going to have to treat him differently. Teams are going to have to treat him like a wide receiver. And what does that do for the Atlanta offense? Now you've got Calvin Ridley getting CB2 in man coverage situations because you're so worried about Kyle Pitts, particularly when you go ISO and things like that.
Calvin Ridley, who was the NFL's most prolific deep receiver last season.
Yeah. And, now you've also got that coverage cue for the quarterback, right? When you walk out there and you see, oh, look, they're taking their best man coverage corner, putting on him. I'm sure that's not to zone off against him. So, you're helping the quarterback, giving them some information pre-snap. And again, look, defenses can tinker with that a bit. So it's not a clear 100% certainty, but you're creating mismatches all over the field now with this guy. That was one of those, okay, he's arrived moments to see how the Dolphins handled that as the game went on.
Well, it was this weird confluence of events. And I've said this before. I got to watch tape with Matt Ryan right before the season, and then right before that Jets game in London. And right before the season, I'm like, okay, where's Kyle Pitts? Do you see him running the Julio routes? The deep sail and the weird posts and all that stuff where Julio was just like uncoverable. And before the season, he's like, we're not there yet. Let's get the one thing done, and then we'll, move to the second and third things. And then I talked to him right before the Jets game. And he's like, yeah, he's ready. It's going to break. It's going to bust like right now. And it has ever since. Yeah. So it was an interesting kind of progression of, it took a month for Kyle Pitts to be like, okay, quarterback has been in the league since 2008, had Julio Jones for all those years. To get that level of trust from a veteran quarterback, it's one thing if a rookie doesn't know what he's doing, or a Sam Darnold or a Jared Goff, you're like, or a Garoppolo, he's just throwing to anybody. For a guy like Matt Ryan, who sees the whole thing in his head and he goes, yeah, now I can trust 8. We're good. Let's go.
And I don't think we should ignore the Matt Ryan aspect to this either, because, Charles McDonald, we love Charles, had a great analogy. He said there's a little pulled pork to his arm right now. Like, he doesn't have the velocity, the RPMs on throws that he used to, but he has elite ball placement right now.
Yeah.
You look at those vertical throws, you look at some other throws. Derek Clausen highlighted some where he's throwing crossing routes, but he's putting it to the shoulder, to the hip to protect his receiver. He can still put the football wherever he wants to. And that's a huge part of their success right now. It was a huge part of those 2 huge plays to Kyle Pitts. You had the deep shot touchdown to Gage where he threw him open. Ryan's playing at a high level too. So I don't think we should ignore that part either.
Well, in the kind of the hierarchy of needs, where do you put velocity? I mean,
look,
3rd, 4th. Joe Montana the Niners, when they had Montana, used to play on a 40-yard practice field. And John Madden, in one of his books, mentioned, he asked Bill Walsh, well, why are you playing on such a short field? Because we don't throw it any longer than this.
Yeah.
This is our game.
You need to have sufficient velocity to make throws into windows, but there are ways you can scheme around that: accuracy, time, and rhythm, anticipation. Accuracy is a non-negotiable. If you can't put the football where it needs to be when it needs to be there, I don't care how hard you can throw it. If you can't get it to where it needs to be, if you can put the football where it needs to be, there are ways you can get around not having an overpowering arm. Everybody's in love with Joe Burrow right now, with reason. Joe Burrow doesn't have an elite arm, but he has the ability to make throws accurately with good time and rhythm and anticipation. That's where Riot is right now. An elite arm is like icing on a cake situation. It's going to help you in some certain situations, but it's not a non-negotiable, like decision-making, accuracy, ability to throw it against leverage, ability to extend plays with your feet at times, and some of the other things that go into playing the position at a high level.
You show me a quarterback who can throw his receivers open, and the way I put it, a guy who will throw his receivers closed. The difference between that, I will take that over Jeff George, Kyle Bowler, whoever, Jones, Russell.
The NFL graveyard is littered with quarterbacks with cannons who couldn't throw the football where it needed to be.
Yep. Dolphins at Bills. Bills are the best man coverage defense I've seen since the 2019 Patriots, full stop. And when I say the best, the 2019 Patriots, you remember this. That,
Yep.
I mean, they were ridiculous. I didn't think you could play that much man that well in today's NFL, but they did.
Yep.
In man, they've allowed 21 completions and 45 attempts for 231 yards, no touchdowns, 3 interceptions, and an opponent QBR of 34.6. To put that in perspective, the Packers ranked second in opponent QBR allowed in man coverage at 61.4. So basically, there's the Bills in man coverage, and there's everybody else. Tre'Davious is back in pre-injury form. Levi Wallace has cleaned up the stuff he needed to clean up. Micah Hyde is balling out. Jordan Poyer, I think, is the best safety in the NFL right now. That duo is the best duo, but we love yeah, they're great together. Would we say they're top 3, either one of them? I think both of them are, and Poyer's just playing out of his freaking mind. He's got a passer rating allowed of like 10. It's just stupid. So now you get, it's not like one guy in the pass rush is the dominant force, which is almost what you want because guys get hurt. But Epinesa, Jerry Hughes, Greg Rousseau, Mario Addison, Ed Oliver. Come on, Ed. I compared you to John Randall when you came out. But I'm kind of hoping for more.
Right.
Probably, I mean, I don't know if the best linebacker group, but right up there. That secondary. Every week you play the Bills, it's just a pain in the ass. Now, Tua, since he returned from injury in week 6, he's 65 of 87 for 620 yards, 6 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, quarterback rating of 102.7. Now, he did that against the Jaguars and the Falcons, and the Dolphins lost both games. So, of course, Tua is a failure because, QB wins. What have you seen from Tua, and with all the Deshaun Watson talk, which I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think anyone's going to take that risk. But, there's Tua saying, what did he say? I don't not feel
I don't know. Yeah, I think it was wanted. I don't not feel wanted. Yeah.
When you get to the end of a relationship. Yeah. Where are you with, because I mean, there's the occasional bonehead interceptions, but he seems to be playing better in the structure of an offense that doesn't always seem to have structure.
Yeah. I think he's been, obviously, yes, you look at the level of competition, Jacksonville and out in Atlanta, but I think he's been a lot better. He had a boneheaded interception against Jacksonville where I don't know where he was throwing the football. You're trying to high, low a corner on the left side, and he throws it right to the corner, not to the high or the low. Maybe there was a miscommunication there. I don't know. But he's layered in some throws pretty well. He's made some good reads in the passing game. He's been aggressive downfield when he's had opportunities. And to look at the whole Watson situation, I think there are obviously reasons off the field why teams want to do that. But I think if you're the Dolphins, there's an on the field reason not to do that, which is Tua's gotten better and you haven't got a full year of evaluation. And you've got,
I was going to say, this is going to be his 14th start.
Yeah. You don't have a full season. And again, to bring up Bill Walsh, players have 3 years to figure it out, particularly quarterbacks. This is his second year, but not even his first full 16 slate of games starting as a quarterback in the NFL. I think there are other reasons that this defense wasn't as good as we thought it was going to be. We thought it was going to be a great defense. It's not. The offensive line is still sort of figuring some stuff out. And as a result, they're not the team that they thought they were going to be. But I don't think added Deshaun Watson papers over the other stuff. And it also calls into question, again, not to pod out the article that's already pre-written just in case Miami does this, but it calls into question your process in the first place, right? You're going to draft this quarterback. It's not a situation where a new regime has come in, new GM, new head coach, new both. And they're like, look, we didn't draft Tua. He's not our guy. We're going in a different direction. These are the same people that made these decisions to suddenly just walk away from it. Now, I know the flip side is that on the field, Deshaun Watson is an elite quarterback, and it's the whole mystery box thing where, yeah, maybe, Tua becomes Deshaun Watson, but you could get Deshaun Watson. Like, why wait? Why hope? Okay, but there's on the field reasons not to make this trade, the Tua evaluation standpoint, and there's a whole litany of reasons off the field not to make this trade. So if I'm Miami, I'm not doing it. I'm rolling with Tua. You've still got more time to evaluate this kid. Watson's not going to fix everything overnight. I think he's been better in recent weeks. It would seem like a panic move to me.
I think, being up here in Seattle and seeing how you can epically mismanage first round picks for over a decade, and eventually you just pay for it. Dolphins have all these picks. There was a whole tankathon thing where they overperformed, and now we're a playoff team. You know, when you have to put Liam Eichenberg at left tackle and your defense is kind of weird and the pass rush is iffy, I would say spend those first round picks wisely on the positions that you need to shore up and develop your quarterback. And, you know, that's just me.
Yeah. I mean, this is being billed as a very defense trenches draft. I mean, you know, there will be talented wide receiver, but you know, there's talented pass rushers in this draft. There's talented interior defensive linemen. There's talent on the offensive line. There's talent in the secondary. Like those are some positions, maybe not secondary, but some of those other positions where Miami could certainly use an injection of talent. And so, yeah, I would much more be in line with that approach. I understand that there are people that would rather see Miami move on from Tua. Okay, I'm not one of them.
I think Tua is the kind of guy who can go somewhere else in a, you know, in the right scheme and make them regret it.
Yeah.
I think there's enough there. I think he has 2 more starts than Jalen Hurts.
Yeah.
And we're all preaching patience with Jalen Hurts, and you know, because it feels like, because Tua's, I guess, been around so long, or he was so successful in college, we just think of him as a guy who's been around 3 to 5 years, and he really hasn't.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's right.
49ers at Bears. Ugh.
This is our weekly. This is a game of professional football.
This is a professional football product. So 2 bad offenses. I expect that from Matt Nagy. I do not expect that from Kyle Shanahan. And that's the way it's going to be until Trey Lance is healthy. Because I mean, Garoppolo, whatever. 2 and 4, they're in the soup until something breaks loose at quarterback. And that might not happen. It might not this season, maybe just, okay, we got to, last season, it was the injury luck. This season, it's just some team building issues have come to light. And this is the weekly part of our podcast where I start to beat up on Matt Nagy. So here's another way. It's like every week we find a way. By the way, Matt Nagy, I guess he's in the COVID protocol and he's not at Hallis Hall, but he won't reveal where he is. Advantage Bears, I guess.
Yeah.
Ooh, sneaky. Justin Fields at play action this season, 23 of 35 for 262 yards, 7.5 yards per attempt. 65.7 completion rate, 1 touchdown, no interceptions, pass rating 97.6. Without play action, 52 of 96 for 554 yards, 5.8 yards per attempt, 54.2 completion rate, passer rating of 48.7. Fields has been given play action on 46 dropbacks, which is tied for 28th in the league with Ben Roethlisberger, who hates play action and always has. And if you try and make him do it, he won't shut up about how he hates it. Justin Fields at Ohio State in 2020. Play action on 33.5% of his dropbacks, 57 completions and 77 attempts for 907 yards, 11.8 yards per attempt, 74 completion rate, 9 touchdowns, 1 interception. Passer rating of 146.4. Is that good?
That's pretty good.
The Bears had 1 read option play against the Packers in week 6. Khalil Herbert broke a 25-yard run. You never saw it again. Herbert did a great job against the Bucs. But this is, I mean, what's like worse than malpractice? You were a lawyer. You tell me. Like,
I mean, there's nothing worse than malpractice. I mean, unless it gets to sort of a criminal situation. But
can we file a bar complaint against Matt Nagy? You have to at least make a half-assed attempt to do stuff that it's not. I go back to that Steve Martin joke about McDonald's. Now we're never going to get a McDonald's endorsement, but
yeah,
it's like you go in and there's this vat full of this stuff. It's like hamburger, malt, paper box. Here's your change. Thank you.
Yeah.
With Matt Nagy, everything is in the vat of stuff. And it's just, he scoops it out and goes, there it is.
Yeah. And, you know, lots of people have talked about, you know, the whole Justin Fields situation. The week got off to a Justin Fields discourse start when there was the study that came out from PFF. Of the 22 sacks of him this year, only 5 were on the quarterback. Like the other 17 are on other issues. And, you know, sacks are sometimes a quarterback start. If you're holding the football too long, which he does at times, you know, there is that.
Which he did at Ohio State, and that was part of the offense.
That was part of the offense. That's the thing. You knew that going in.
It's not like he's holding onto the ball because he's stupid.
No,
that's what he's used to.
Yeah, and you're
forcing a shitload of option routes all over the place.
Yeah, and you're forcing him into this. This was the Ted Wynn point that he wrote this week at The Athletic, which is you're forcing him into an offense that's a quick game, three-step stuff. That's not what he's used to. You have to adapt the offense to what your quarterback does. Now, Matt Nagy has not done this. It's clear that he has not done this. This is the second young quarterback that Matt Nagy has been given to develop. He didn't quite get the job done with Mitchell Trubisky, and maybe you could say, look, that's a quarterback then. That's not a Matt Nagy thing. Now this is the second quarterback, and we're having the same sort of discussions. There's one common denominator here, and it's the coach. Now, has he tweaked the offense? Yeah. When Bill Lazor called plays, it was a bit more vertical. When
Bill Lazor called plays, they had flood, they had boot, they had open receivers. They asked Allen Robinson about the chemistry with Fields this week, and Robinson said, well, it would have helped if he was playing in the preseason with the starters.
Which, by the way, I seem to recall people like you and I back in this summer saying, even if he's your backup, you've still got to get him reps with the ones. Like, you got to get him reps with the ones anyway to build chemistry, to evaluate him properly. But even if he's a backup, you still got to get reps with the ones, because what if Dalton goes down? You won't have that relationship and chemistry built. And here we are seeing the Bears live through that. Does Fields need to get better? Yes. Does he need to speed things up? Yes. Does he need to make better throws? Certainly. All rookie quarterbacks need to go through those things and get better at those things. But Coach Petrino's book, Take Care of Your Quarterback, I referenced that this week right about Fields. They're not doing a job taking care of the quarterback. They're not doing a job at getting him some completions. They're not doing, like, you look at their initial game scripts, sometimes it's like, yeah, this stuff works, but then they get away from it in the flow of the game.
Well, God, use him as a use him as a runner. Use him as an option threat. Make the mesh point a problem. The 49ers jump on everything. It's all they can do. I mean, they had the all PI defense against the Colts. They're aggressive because they don't really have anything else going right now, except for Bosa and Warner and a couple other guys. Make the mesh point a problem.
Yep.
Why is this so hard?
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, there's a similar discussion going on in New England about why aren't you working more RPOs into the offense? Because that's what Mac Jones is familiar with. And McDaniels has basically said, look, that's kind of not where we're structured. I get look, this is what we do. This is the offense we have, but I'm still very much of the mind you got to incorporate the stuff that your quarterback does well. If he's a young quarterback, to put him on familiar footing.
I'll go to Pete Carroll running right into the teeth of the second best run defense in the NFL over and over and over, raining Monday night here in Seattle. And Pete said, well, that was the game script. That's what we do. This is who we are. And we're just going to beat our head against a brick wall until we die. And it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I don't get it. But what are we doing?
Hey, here's a coach who deals very well with adversity. Remember this is the rematch of the Browns playoff game where Stefanski had COVID and
coach. Yeah.
And the Steelers had like the weirdest turnovers ever. And last week we said, oh, the Browns are screwed. They're, no Baker. No, and of course, here comes the Broncos, no run fits at all. I'm sure Vic Fangio loved that. They're going to be 3-4. It's a referendum on Baker, which proves that I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. And Cleveland's interior offensive line, Mark, they're really good.
They're really good.
Oh my God. Dearness Johnson, who I think he made secret superstars last year because he played well against the Cowboys. But this was an ass whooping. This was like, wow. And it does play to, with the 12 and 13 personnel, Chubb and Kareem Hunt, that is their personality. It's very much like Seattle was back when Russell was playing, which is run the ball, heavy personnel, explosive plays in the passing game. But really, this was just, we're going to kick your ass. And the Broncos, with Teddy kind of hurt, didn't have a counter for that in their own passing game. Well, neither do the Steelers.
Right.
So, you've got Cam Hayward, you've got TJ Watt, you've got some estimable guys, but all of a sudden, and I'm not sure what Baker's status is.
He's practicing. I think it's going to be close to a game time decision, but as we saw with Case Keenum, Keenum can run that offense. There's a reason why, backup quarterback in many situations is an important role, because if you can get that veteran that knows the offense, doesn't need practice reps, he can just step in and go. That's what you saw with Keenum. And so he can certainly run that offense. He can make some throws in the downfield passing game. He can make some throws off of play action, which is where they want to be. It's hard not to like Cleveland in this game.
Three of their next 4 games. They have the Bengals, they have the Patriots, they have the Lions, whatever. Then they have the Ravens twice in a row. Then they have the Raiders. Then they have the Packers, Steelers again, Bengals again. If I'm Stefanski, I go, even if I drop one to Pittsburgh, I want to wait until Baker's fully healthy and can make all the throws, because clearly that was a problem with his health before. Yeah. And if an injured Baker is 5% better than a healthy Case Keenum, why not just wait?
Yeah, I mean, I think you wait until he's cleared to go, because it was obvious watching him, particularly against Arizona, that shoulder was impacted him from a mechanical standpoint. Baker's always been a very torquey thrower. We've talked about this, but when you can see when he's healthy, that lead left arm comes through and down. But when he was thrown against Arizona, it was much more guarded, right? He's got it close to him. And as somebody that has a torn labrum in that left shoulder, I know exactly what he's feeling. You feel like he can't rip through that. And so it's messing up your release point. It's messing up your mechanics. It's messing up your velocity. It's hurting that. And you saw it on the interception he threw against Arizona, where he just missed on that in cut, where he's not finishing the throw. He's leaving it up here because he's not pulling through. It's going to impact him unless he's fully healthy. Now, you won't get fully healthy unless you get the surgery. My shoulder sometimes sounds like a popcorn machine in the morning because it's just popping in and out when I'm just doing daily things, not trying to throw a football with guys like, TJ Watt trying to kill me. So, yeah.
You're 4-3. You're third in the division. You have 2 games against the Bengals and 2 games against the Ravens after this Steelers game, which you can probably win without Baker Mayfield.
Yep.
Yeah. That's just me. I'm not. And hey, Stefanski, guy does a great job, but I'd wait.
Yep.
So Eagles at Lions. I have more on this than I probably should.
Yeah.
The Eagles have the worst defense against play action this season. 8 touchdowns allowed to just 1 interception. Maybe Jared Goff. Oh, no, he can't. Jonathan Gannon, the Eagles' first-year defensive coordinator, now has Fletcher Cox calling him out. This after the Eagles allowed Derek Carr to complete 31 of 34 passes for 323 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception without Darren Waller. Carr's 91.2 completion percentage ranks as the second highest single game mark of all time, in which a quarterback attempted at least 30 passes. Only Drew Brees in 2019 had a higher completion percentage, and I'm guessing that was more short passes. Fletcher Cox said this: "I don't get paid to play screens. I get paid to sack the quarterback, play in the backfield, tackle. I don't get paid to play screens. We get screened all the time. Get out of stack and run to the football." Confronted his coaches on the sidelines. It was one of those deals as a player. I didn't agree with what was called in defense, so I kind of let my frustration go, and that's part of the game. You do the QB Factory reboot podcast. Usually I'm asking you about Jalen Hurts. What I know about the Eagles defense is they are very cautious. They're not very exotic. They're playing like a team. And I've always, I stole this from Greg Cosell. Coaches will say whatever they want. They'll tell you what they think of their players by how they, deploy them on the field. I think Darius Slay's played very well. I think Avonte Maddox has had his moments. Why are they so cautious? Why is it like they're playing scared? They're playing reactive. Why is that?
I don't have an answer for that. I think it might be because of problems at the second level of their defense. They've got good guys up front. They've got good guys in the secondary, but that second level has been a problem for them for years now. There's this idea that, look, linebackers don't have a ton of value in today's NFL. Linebackers primarily stop the run. And so that's where their value comes in. But in a passing dominated league.
What? Who says that?
Yeah. Linebackers don't. Well, yeah. I mean, look up
there's been a whole influx of 220-pound linebackers who play like safeties.
Yeah. Well, look up the Fred Warner discourse for what he got his contract this offseason, and you'll see some stuff.
Whatever.
But the problem is, what do teams on offense want to do? They want to create mismatches and exploit them. And when you have linebackers that can be detrimental in the pass game, when you can pick them apart, that's might cause you to play a little bit more static, a little more cautious, a little more. We're going to play some soft coverages. We're going to play some quarters and things like that, where we can keep eyes on stuff. So if there's a breakdown on the second level, the guys on the third level can fix that. But that's a problem right now. That's
Their
a problem right now.
defenses, I would say Seattle is like this to me. Washington is like this to me. Philadelphia is like this to me, where you're trying stuff up front and you don't really believe in it. You're just sort of throwing crap against the wall to see what sticks. And when you do that, you tend to be very, very pull it back in the secondary. The Bengals were like this for the last 2 years. And the apology to Lou Anarumo is coming from me like in a few minutes. Because sometimes you get the right guys. I just, I wish SIS had an inverted cover 2 filter just so I could demolish the Eagles every week for using it. Stop. So here is, broken defense against Detroit's broken offense. I just kind of, so Nick Sirianni said this week about his team, the results aren't there right now, but what's going on here is there's growth under the soil. Everyone wants to see results. Nobody wants to see results more than us. We want to see results, but it's really important. The foundation is being built. The roots are growing out. Sounds like it's time for a gardener.
Yeah. Well, it's still too early for Minshew. It's still because
I know it's
again,
probably
similar to the Tua discussion.
He's gonna throw plant cliches at me. What am I gonna do?
I know, but similar to the Tua discussion. Look, you're talking about a quarterback. Now it is what, 4th offense in 4 years? Because he had the Alabama offense, the Lincoln Riley offense, Doug Peterson last year, and now this assemblage of whatever Nick Sirianni is calling an offense. Like, I think you still got to give just Jalen Hurts some time. Now, maybe that till Thanksgiving, and if we're still having this discussion, then sure, okay, you can play Gardner Minshew, because I think there's an interesting aspect, and I think it was Ball Wolf at The Athletic who pointed this out. If and when you play Gardner Minshew, it might not be just an evaluation of the quarterback. It might be an evaluation of the coach, because if you're still having these problems offensively with a different quarterback, then it becomes, okay, well, what are we doing from a coaching standpoint? That's the problem. Another thing to remember is, the Minshew trade, there was a conditional aspect to it. So the more Minshew plays, the higher that pick becomes. Now it would go from a 6th to a 5th. It's not like the Wentz 2nd to a 1st situation in Indianapolis.
If that's your primary concern, I think everybody needs to be fired.
Right. I mean, I don't think that that's the primary concern or would be even close to that. I think it's more interesting that there's the idea that it would be an evaluation of the coach more so than the quarterback. But I still think this whole bench Hurts situation is just way too early. The problem with Hurts right now is he's great in the first 5 minutes and he's fantastic in the last 15. He's very good in their opening script. They get away from doing stuff like that, and he struggles mid-game. And then when they're down by 20, he's running all over the place and making plays. Like, you need to figure out, okay,
they have like
second quarter
stuff in
and
the
third
middle of
quarter
games, though. That's a problem.
Yeah, that's a problem. It's hard to win games when you're only good on offense for 20 minutes of the 60. And so they need to figure out the middle 40.
Well, you got a third of the thing done.
So. Yeah, it's more than that. It's more than some offenses have.
That is true. Here's one offense that Titans at Colts. In a 6-day stretch, the Titans have knocked off the 2 teams who played in the AFC Championship game last year. And against the Bills, they wisely said, screw it, we're not throwing it. This is the best secondary in the NFL. We're just going to run Derrick Henry right at your face. And that worked. And then against the Chiefs, oh, look, it's Ryan Tannehill play action time. How in the world did this team lose to the Jets in week 4? I don't know, but this is where the Titans are. Yep. The pass defense is still a problem, but when you're getting pressure at this rate, and Harold Landry all of a sudden beast mode, Jeffrey Simmons, boom. Bud Dupree, not so much, but if getting Bud Dupree on the team put Harold Landry in the stratosphere, then I still say it was worth it. Daniko Autry, another one of those like Marcus Golden, perpetually underrated guys, has 30 pressures, and he's kind of the inside-outside guy. We saw what Jeffrey Simmons can do against the Bills. 97 total pressures between those 3 guys. At that point, you can have look at the Raiders. They have a below average secondary. Max Crosby and Yannick Ngakoue are just going nuts. Ravens and Raiders on a bye this week, by the way.
Yep.
Now the Titans have been flagged 6 times for defensive pass interference this season, tied for 4th most in the league. So the primary construct of the Colts passing game right now seems to be defensive pass interference and hoping that Carson Wentz's interception-worthy throws do not turn into interceptions. That's what I noticed against the 49ers. So we'll see.
Yeah. I mean, the thing about the Titans right now is it's similar to the discussion we had at the start about Arizona. Pressure with 4. I mean, I know it's a stock cliched thing, but Mina Kimes asked this week on Twitter because she had Matt Bowen on her podcast to talk about the Titans, which was a great listen. But she asked, like, what front four is better right now than the Titans? And it's a case to be made right now that they're playing at an extremely high level. So you get the pressure with 4. When you get a lead and you turn teams one-dimensional and you know that they're going to throw, like, that's what you can do. And then on the offensive side of the football, you get Brown back. Julio, he's been in and out of the lineup, I know, but when you get teams to have to bring that safety down to the box, but you could still be effective off of play action because your run looks and your pass looks look the same, and the linebackers buy in, and you have the fear of God of Derrick Henry, and you've got people making business decisions when they see him running the football.
Which the Chiefs, I wrote a whole article last Sunday about the Chiefs' business decisions.
Yep.
I wish there were several.
There were several, and I get it. Like, if you're 180
I mean, I get if you're like, Mike Hughes, but Chris Jones, man.
Yeah. But I mean, that's what the offense can do. That's what the defense can do. That's why they're a very good team. Now you get Carson Wentz, who, yes, he had a boneheaded interception in a monsoon against the San Francisco 49ers, but he's been playing pretty well. The issue I see in this game, though, is a lot of his successes in the downfield vertical passing game right now, which takes some time to develop. And you get that front 4. That's where I think this matchup is going to be won. Will Wentz have time to make those throws and take advantage of that secondary, or is he going to be under pressure, which is where you see Wentz have some of his most boneheaded moments as a quarterback?
And I would really watch Autry in this game because I going back to, I remember when the Seahawks signed Michael Bennett, they got Cliff Averill in the same offseason. And I remember Bennett with the Buccaneers as this guy who grew inside, outside. And it was before there was as much gap multiplicity as there is in the NFL today. But Autry is that guy who sort of ties the outside and the inside pass rush together. He's the guy who ties a Harold Landry to a Jeffrey Simmons. And when you have the guy in the middle who can sort of do all the things all over the place, I mean, the Colts obviously have DeForest Buckner for that. And DeForest Buckner makes $11 billion and justifiably so. But Autry is the guy, to me, from what I've seen in Tennessee's defense, he's that sort of glue in the front where you can A, be multiple, and B, get pressure with 4. So, interesting thing. Bengals at Jets.
There we go. Can't hear you.
Okay, now
there we go.
That was up on Whidbey Island, the Wi-Fi isn't always great. So anyway, we'll get to Bengals at Jets. My apology. I didn't kill the Wi-Fi, so I wouldn't have to apologize to Lou Amarino. Lou, I'm sorry.
Thought you were ducking that one.
Boy, that defense is something else. So the Joe Burrow to DeMarcus combinations continues to amaze. It's time to turn attention to Cincinnati's defense. 5th in defensive DVOA, 8th against the run, 5th against the pass. Chidobe Awuzie, he's become a wide receiver 1 shutdown guy. His game against Devontae Adams proved the concept. That's another team with multiple fronts. They do a great job tying pressure to coverage. 2 things stood out to me about Burrow against the Ravens, and it's the deciphering pre-snap movement along the front. We already kind of knew that, but he really showed it at an advanced level. His pocket movement, his in the pocket, the subtle movement to maintain his presence and mechanics in the pocket. I mean, we all know that Tom Brady's the best of all time at this. I would say right now, Burrow's top 5. And it's like he's been in the league for 10 years. This will be his 18th NFL start.
Yeah. And, if you go back to his time at LSU, this is one of the things that I loved about him. It was the ability to move subtly in the pocket, yet always be in position to make throws. And you saw that often when it was manufactured for him. RPO looks where he's going to open left, turn left, and then immediately get his feet under him to throw backside. He was always so good and adept at when he's having to move one way, keeping those feet ready. I think at the start of this year, he was a little bit uncomfortable and unsure of the knee. We see this with young quarterbacks or quarterbacks generally when they have that knee injury. They're not right. Medical science is great that they can get back on the field for the next season, but it takes like 4 to 5 weeks for them to feel like, okay, if I need to drive through a throw, that knee's going to hold up. If I need to click and climb in the pocket, that knee's going to hold up. If I need to evade a free rusher, that knee's going to hold up. He's got it now. You saw that on the third down play where they get the free rusher at him, steps up, steps around, eventually checks it down for a conversion on a catch and run situation. So he's back to where he was. He's back to where I sort of thought he would be coming out. And when I talk about how, athleticism is one of those non-negotiables at the quarterback position now, you don't need to be Kyler Murray or Lamar Jackson, but you need to be at least a Tom Brady or a Burrow where, you're not going to run away from guys all the time. You're not going to beat a Von Miller to the edge, but you can step around him. You can make that unblocked guy blitz. And when you get those mug looks, those pressure looks, and you think you've got it sorted, and then something strange happens where it's an overload and you've slid the protection away from it, and now you've got a free runner, the ability of the quarterback to then make that free runner miss is essential. If you're just a sit and duck there and that turns into a sack, that's going to be a problem. Earlier this season, Burrow wasn't quite able to do that. He's able to do that now.
Well, the Ravens game was an interesting sort of litmus test for Burrow, because early on they were blitzing and, single coverage, and it worked. And it was like, okay, it doesn't work. And then pop. He kept attacking. And then all of a sudden there was the little skinny slant he had Chase had against Marlon Humphrey, and he went, rolled over 5 guys and ran through an MRF's face and all that. And it was like, okay, now we've got it. And then the Ravens kind of turned into the 85 Bears where it's, blitz all the time and single back here. And that didn't work.
Yeah.
I was just really impressed. I mean, we go back to the Jaguars game where he got the protection. This was like graduate school to 101 compared to that. And he just, because early on it was a little dicey, and he just kept at it and kept at it and kept at it. And it's like, there's nothing in this kid's head that says, oh, I'm in trouble.
Yeah.
Like he hasn't, I'm going to say Brady, Montana, guys like that, Rodgers. I'm not comparing him to those quarterbacks, but there was an inherent sort of mental, it's not even acuity. It's just a sense of calm that really rare. It's rare to see, especially in a young quarterback, where it's just like, no, I've got this. It's okay.
Yeah.
We'll figure it out. We'll make it work.
Yeah. He doesn't panic. He doesn't get flustered. He remains calm in the cauldron, like all the things you want to see from a quarterback.
Very impressive. So, and the Jets are, the Jets. Who's starting at quarterback? Mike White
out of Western Kentucky.
Awesome. You got any notes on him? Do we need any?
I generally liked him coming out as like sort of a backup depth spot starter type guy. I think, there's a lot of hand wrangling, consternation, let's say, about, you trade from Flacco. Why isn't he starting this week? Flacco's there to help develop Mike White. I mean, Zach Wilson, not Mike White. This is also an acknowledgement perhaps by the organization that the decision not to have a veteran quarterback in place this offseason was the wrong move. You need
perhaps a bit flawed. Yes.
Yeah. It's so that they're fixing that now, but there's really not much to say about the Jets right now. They're struggling on defense. New England ran the ball right down their throat at will almost. I think we know how this game goes.
Which New England may do this week as well. We'll get to Rams at Texans. Not much to say about this. Nope. Nobody plays more cover 2 than the Texans because Lovie Smith is running his 2005 defense. Why? I don't know. Matthew Stafford against cover 2 this season, 19 of 32 for 310 yards, 216 air yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. However, the Texans in cover 2, 40 completions and 63 attempts for 651 yards, 3 touchdowns, but also 4 picks. So it's big play or bust.
Yeah.
Here's the problem. The Rams are full of big plays from everywhere to everywhere. And we've talked about the less motion, less play action, more empty. It's very much a Bruce Arians offense, what Sean McVay is running now. It's levels to the front, crosser to the back, that easy sort of, okay, here's the advanced, short to intermediate to deep passing game to your front side, and then that sort of easy crosser back here. I remember when Bruce was in Arizona, Larry Fitzgerald was the backside crosser guy, and he always had that. It's Rams.
What's deadly is now they're running backside dig and go.
I know.
That there was a touchdown that he had against the Buccaneers.
They obliterated the Seahawks with that.
Yeah, I mean,
Not
because
that
when
it
you
takes
can,
much, but yeah.
when you can consistently hit that backside dig, like when it's your third read, you've got the ability to let him toy around with that as well. I mean, Sean McVay's having fun now, and I don't blame him.
He's just on an offensive sugar high. And
Yeah.
I just said who can blame him. Patriots at Chargers. This is interesting. So week 13 of the 2020 season, Justin Herbert is on his offensive rookie of the year pace, runs straight into the teeth of a Patriots defense that had been waylaid by opt-outs and injuries. I wanted to talk to you about what the Patriots did. It's 45-0 game.
Yep.
Looked to me like a lot of different pressure looks, but they dropped 7 and 8 and wait Herbert out. I went back and looked.
Yeah.
Both at the tape and the stats. New England had 8 snaps of 3 or fewer pass rushes in that game. They allowed 4 completions on 8 attempts for 23 yards, no touchdowns, 1 interception. This season, Herbert has faced 3 or fewer pass rushes and 11 dropbacks, has completed 8 of 10 passes for 66 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions. This season, and you can speak to this more credibly than I can because you study the Patriots every week. I kind of go in and out. The Patriots lead the league in opponent dropbacks, facing 3 pass rushers with 53. The Bengals rank second with 35. Patriots have allowed 32 completions at 41 attempts for 451 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions with 3 or fewer pass rushers. And this is with front multiplicity. There could be 7 guys at the line and 4 drop or 5 drop. You've got 2 guys rushing and you're just waiting the young quarterback out. Do you think that's the way they play it this time, or are there things in Herbert you've seen where Belichick is going, no, we're not going to do that?
I mean, I think that is how they play it again. I think you just see a lot of stunts and twists up front. That's what they did last year. This is a much improved offensive line with Slater, with the guard they got from the Steelers. And so it's a better offensive line. Those stunt games might not be as successful, but I do think it's going to be in many ways similar to what you saw a couple of weeks ago against Dallas, right? You're going to see some drop 7, some drop 8 stuff where they're going to rush 3. They're going to sort of wait him out, wait Herbert out, make him make reads and read things out rather than just giving him some easy reads and throws. Interestingly enough, quarterback rating, it's not a perfect statistic, let's say that, but Herbert this year has been much better against 2 high coverages. It got a quarterback rating of like 106 or something like that, which is top 10, I think. He's like 27th against single high coverages. And we know Belichick tends to want to be in that single high family, primarily man free cover 1. That's what he likes to play the most. But, you're going to see some cover 3 stuff mixed in there. You'll probably see a lot of 1 cross. Belichick has done that in the past, obviously against Mahomes, but teams have been doing that against the Chargers to try to take away those shallows, those crossers that they like to incorporate, particularly Keenan Allen on a time. So I think you'll see a lot of that.
I was going to say now and it was when Gilmore was still with the Patriots. They, as far as I saw, they had Gilmore on lock. Wherever Keenan Allen went, Stephon Gilmore went. I wonder if they do that with JC Jackson.
Yeah, probably. I mean, Belichick has been toying around with those sort of matchups this year, but I think right now he's come to the realization that, look, JC Jackson's our guy. We're going to put him on the 1. I know a lot of Patriots fans were like, why do you have Jalen Mills on CeeDee Lamb in situations? Those were 1 cross situations where Jackson gets zoned off because he was against Amari Cooper. The big 3rd down conversion to CeeDee Lamb, that was 1 cross where Jackson was backside man coverage on Amari Cooper, but he zones off when he sees him go shallow. The crosser comes down. He's supposed to fill in the middle of the field, didn't quite do it quickly enough. But I think you're going to see a lot of Allen versus Jackson this weekend.
And is there any reason for the Patriots not to run the ball 50 times against this run defense?
Absolutely no reason.
This run defense stinks. And
5.4 yards per carry.
Brandon Staley is a genius, but when he's finding out with the light box overhang thing, I'll say it again. When Aaron Donald is not in your box and Jalen Ramsey's not your overhang guy, it's a problem. Just saying.
Yeah, it is a problem.
And their run fits are just bad.
Yeah.
Like Denver against Cleveland, but every week. So is Ramonde still in the doghouse? He's my guy, but I don't know.
I think he's kind of doghoused right now. I mean, you saw 2 touchdowns from
or something.
Yeah, and there were some pass protection slip ups as well. Mm-hmm. Obviously, JJ Taylor, he was RB2 for the most part last week at the 2 touchdown runs. Damian Harris had 2 touchdown runs. So I'd expect those 2 guys to get the bulk of work this week. But as I always caution people, me trying to predict or anybody trying to predict running back usage from the New England Patriots is often a fool's errand because they will switch things up. Just ask Jonas Gregg.
Yeah. Or, predicting anything Belichick will do. We'll say
That too.
they're going to drop 8. They'll rush 9.
Yeah.
We're going to say they run the ball 50 times. Mac Jones will throw for 600 yards because
Yep.
you know, that's him. There's a guy who doesn't change his spots. Jaguars and Seahawks. Definition of insanity department, Pete Carroll edition against the Saints, who came into Monday night's game with the second best run defense DVOA behind the Colts. Seattle ran Alex Collins 11 times inside the tackles for 17 yards and 29 yards before first contact, which means they better figure something out against a Jaguars team that has a half decent run defense and a pass defense that is just horrible. Anything you want in the red zone, not that it matters to Pete. And I know your quarterback is Geno Smith. I know you probably won't get Russell Wilson back for a couple more weeks, but you know, and Pete's like, hey, this is the game script. It was rainy. This is what we're going to do. I'm going to stick a pin in that for now. I may come back to this there have been some people saying it's time to move on from Pete Carroll. I'm not there yet, but I'm
warming up to the idea.
I wouldn't even say I'm going that far. I would say that Pete Carroll, the executive, has not done Pete Carroll, the head coach, any favors, and Pete Carroll, the head coach, is not reciprocating. Let's put it that way. And
that sounds about right.
I don't know what the defensive coordinator is doing. And I can't blame Shane Waldron for anything because
right.
There's the Russell Wilson offense, there's the Pete Carroll offense, and you're the third guy, whoever you are. And there's, you know, Brad Schottenheimer and Darrell Bevell who could, you know, speak to that on the Jaguars side. I think Trevor Lawrence could eat against his defense. And at that point, if you lose to Jacksonville at home and you're what, 2-6?
Yeah.
Last time Pete Carroll was 2-5, he mentioned this week, was his first season at USC. And ain't no Carson Palmer or Matt Leinart or Wendell White or whoever else coming down the pike.
Nope. Not right now.
You gave up your first round pick for a, you know, 220
edge safety
edge rusher.
Yep.
Nice going. Oh, speaking of bad defense, Washington at Broncos. Let's see. I mean, Washington's been really bad in man coverage, tied with the Jaguars for the most touchdowns allowed in man coverage, 7. 4 of those have been in the red zone. The Broncos are tied with the most touchdowns allowed in man coverage on passes of 16 or more air yards, which is the NFL's definition of explosive. Tied with the Ravens, 4, which is something the Ravens should watch out for once they're off their bye. Give Taylor Heineke all the play action all the time this season with play action. Heineke has completed 59 to 78 passes for 768 yards, 7 touchdowns, and no interceptions. Goodness.
Yeah. I mean, that's where he's at his best. I mean, you know, not a whole ton on this game. Washington's defense is bad. Denver's defense has been okay. Both quarterbacks have some iffy situations. I think with Washington and Heineke, like you pointed out, they have to very much be on play action and give him his first read, because in studying Heineke, he's been at his worst when he's forced to get to 2 or 3. He's very much still at this point right now where if one isn't open, his plan B is to sort of tuck and create and try to manufacture 2 coming open at some point later in the down. I'd like to see more of him just going from 1 to 2 to 3, but he's not quite with it right now. Run a lot of play action for him, and I think they'll be okay, but it's really not a lot of fun stuff to talk about in this one.
Yeah. There are some quarterbacks when they start to create, you're like, oh, don't do that.
Yeah.
Don't play, just play the hits. Just, you know, you're here so you don't get fined.
Yeah.
Buccaneers and Saints. Mark, we are nearly there. We are 2 touchdowns away from the most insane. I will brook no argument. This is the most insane achievement in NFL history. Tom Brady threw 147 touchdowns in his 20s. He now has thrown 146 touchdowns in his 40s. He is 2 touchdowns away from throwing more touchdowns in his 40s than he did in his 20s. And I want to point out again just how utterly freaking preposterous this is. Drew Brees ranks second among quarterbacks in their 40s with 51 touchdown passes. Brett Favre and Warren Moon have 44. Vinny Testaverde, I think he had 20. George Bland had 22. Sonny Jurgensen 11. Doug Flutie 10. If you combine every other quarterback in pro football history, they've all thrown 261 touchdowns in their 40s. Brady has 36% of the 407 touchdown passes of all that have been thrown by quarterbacks in their 40s.
We've run out of things to say about
And
the
he's
guy.
probably playing better than he ever has. What the
Yeah.
hell? I
don't,
say this every week. What the hell? I don't know what
I
else
don't get
to
it.
say. I like the pocket move. I was listening to Orlovsky and Pioli's podcast, Tapeheads, which is, that's on my list every week. And Dan was saying, the pocket movement's better than ever. The throwing to, it's like he mentioned the touchdown, I think it was to Evans, where if he had stopped time and physically put the ball on Mike Evans' shoulder and then started time again, he could not have done it any better.
Yeah.
It's just
even the touchdown to Godwin and that little, slant and go kind of concept, where he has to put it on the back shoulder. It's a great design down in the red zone. He's throwing the football exactly where it needs to be on almost every single play. He's moving as well as he has.
He's running.
We saw this coming.
He's running. I asked Gronk about this when I watched tape with him last month. He's like, how is he running boot now? And Gronk's like, yeah, Bruce added that in. Like, I guess it works.
But we saw this coming. We said this summer, look, he's going to be healthy and he knows the offense inside and out. Like, he's probably going to have a much better year than he did last year. And he's putting up MVP numbers. It's absurd.
So Brady against the Saints last year, his first game with the Buccaneers, he had 2 interceptions on the quick outs where Lattimore was like, yeah, they ran this with Jameis, so we knew it was coming. We were reading. Yeah. You kind of throw that out. The 3-pick game, the 38-3 disaster, which was right before the bye, and then they sort of got everything right. So, but 5 interceptions in 2 games last year against the Saints team. The Saints team that's still pretty damn good. The Lattimore Evans stuff is always going to be fun. Lattimore a little wounded by DK Metcalf on the one good play the Seahawks had on Monday night. I don't know how much of the past is prologue because that offense is so different and Brady has so elevated his play into the structure of the offense. I do think if there's any letdown, not that there will be, with a quarterback that maniacal, but this, we'll see.
If I'm a Tampa Bay fan, I'm not worried about this game at all. I mean, I think you look at how well Brady and this offense is playing. Is the defense up to where people thought it might be? No, but it's been banged up. But you're going up against
Jameis was throwing air balls all over the place, and yes, the rain, blah blah blah, whatever. But
you might force a Jameis play or 2 or 3, and that's all you'll probably need to do, given what this offense has put together this year, given how well Brady's playing. I look at those games last year, even the playoff one, and no.
Brady this year against man coverage with the Saints play a ton of 43 of 84, 686 yards, 429 air yards, 6 touchdowns, no interceptions. He sees man, he gets opportunistic downfield. Completion rate is a little weird for him, but that's Cowboys and Vikings. We've done a lot on the Cowboys, both sides of the ball. The Vikings secondary has not been a complete disaster this season.
No, it hasn't.
Dantzler has played really well. Patrick Peterson has he's not on E. It's not like the light has come on where oh crap, I got to fill up. Xavier Woods has been a really underrated addition at safety. Makes you wonder what Dallas's secondary might have looked like without that Mike Nolan thing last year. Imagine Trevon Diggs with Chidobe Awuzie and Woods. Ouch. Nobody completes the pass under Dan Quinn. But this is obviously the big test. The Vikings will face the same test the Patriots faced, where Belichick said after the game, I want to take away the thing you do best, but they do everything best. And how do I deal with it? And I mean, is this just a matter of Kirk Cousins trying to, get in a shootout with Dak Prescott, which I don't know about that.
Yeah, I don't know about that either. I mean, it does look like Dak's going to go. I don't think that, him being less than 100% is really going to be an impact on that offense, because it's not like they do a ton where they move him around. Yes, he creates, he can scramble and things like that. But even just from the pocket with the weapons that they have and the way they've structured that offense this year, they're going to be dangerous. And I think the idea of a Cousins versus Dak shootout, while it might be entertaining and Cousins will certainly make some plays, you just look at how explosive that Dallas offense can be juxtaposed with what the Vikings could do. And it's hard to see Minnesota scoring enough to win in a shootout type environment.
Well, if you put Kirk Cousins in a shootout, there are going to be a couple of weird things that happen. And if a quarterback does a weird thing, Trevon Diggs is like, oh, here we go.
Yeah.
I'll take that.
And now look, the Vikings have some weapons too. I've
Yes.
loved the
Oh,
emergence of
Their
KJ
passing
Osborne
their passing game is no joke.
as a wide receiver 3. You look at the overtime win they had a couple weeks ago. That's who he was going to,
Yeah.
because look, if you're a defensive coordinator, we play this game all the time. You're worried about Thielen, you're worried about Jefferson. You're going to dedicate coverage to those guys. That creates some really good opportunities for Osborne, who has made the most of them this year. So they've got some weapons too. It's just when it comes down to it in that sort of shootout type environment, which guy are you trusting?
Giants at Chiefs. Just a little thing about Mahomes. 9 interceptions, 4 fumbles. I'm hearing stuff like, oh, the RPO is breaking him. Well, no. I think one thing that's happening with Mahomes, Football Outsiders has that stat, adjusted interceptions, where they add to your actual interceptions, like the stuff that was deflected or just missed. Mahomes has been in the top 3rd percentile every year he's a starter in adjusted interceptions. I think a lot of this is his turnover luck catching up to him, because a lot of the plays that could have been interceptions have not happened in his past. And yes, he's had some bad throws, but 2 bounced off Tyreek Hill's hands. I think this is just that, I'm not a firm believer in regression to the mean, and it's not always automatic. I think Mahomes is just kind of paying the price this year. I think we can talk about the too high and it's still a problem, and no run game and the crap defense. Is he doing too much in his head? Yeah. But I also think there's just a luck regression that's killing him right now.
Yeah. I mean, I think in terms of the problems with the Chiefs offense right now, there's a list, and luck is at or near the top. Bad luck is at or near the top. And I think Mahomes trying to do too much because of what's happening on the defensive side of the ball is also at or near the top. I mean, I know so much has been made about, it's a too high problem. They need to run the football. Even his interceptions, they're not coming against, like his interception last week against Tennessee was against single high coverage. But most of these are coming where he's trying to do too much. He's feeling like he has to go out and end every drive with a touchdown, because if they don't, the game is going to get out of hand. So a 3rd and 8 situation where it might be more advisable for Mahomes to throw the football away and just say, look, we'll get them next time. We could score points quickly. He's not doing that right now. He's forcing throws into coverage. Some of them have come against too high. Some of them have not come against too high. Some of them have come against single high coverage. Those, I think, are the bigger issues, the sort of bad luck that they've had, as well as him trying to do too much. Then it's just because even the interceptions he's throwing against too high, it's not like, oh, well, too high coverage has fooled him. It's right. He's trying to do too much.
Well, where do you get that? Texas Tech, where I have to score 58 because my defense is going to give up 57 and we never run the ball.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's that. Okay, good stuff, man. As always, very informative and entertaining, Mr. Schofield. Looking forward to the games this week, and we'll talk next week.
Sounds good.